Well, I agree with Kurt in that if you want to see,
Whoa! Wait a second. If that's worth this. That's worth this. Come on, man.
Fuck. All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bourbon Boys, the podcast for guys. You know what?
We're just rolling.
This is episode 28. Hot. So far we've covered Rabbit Hole, Old Forester, Peerless, and now we're going to head out of the city, not too far. It's still within city limits.
Yeah.
To Stitzel Weller. And I was really excited about the Stitzel Weller tour.
Yep.
Have you
Honestly, not my favorite tour.
Have you been? Have you been before?
Before? No.
Yeah.
No, we didn't go.
Was that Lively Shively, I believe it was?
Oh, it was that? It might have been.
Yeah, because remember the Shively was the area that was under different tax code.
Yeah.
So they moved the production inland to what became Lively Shively.
So here's what I will say.
4 miles out of the city center.
So here's what I will say.
Yeah.
The thing that I liked about Stitzel Weller, environmentally, it was like the best tour for me.
Very rustic. I
loved the feel of like all the buildings.
It was a gray, cold day.
Yeah, it was a gray, cold day. It was cold.
Buildings are not heated, except the tasting room.
Buildings are not heated. But no, I mean, I liked, because you actually felt like you were on the property of a distillery.
And it was. It was
authentic.
Old Fitzgerald's was produced there. Now, right now,
but they didn't actually make anything there.
No, it's a showpiece. It's a showpiece for them now.
With like the spirit of Julian Van Winkle roaming around.
Yeah. So if you've read Pappyland, this is the place where Julian talks about going to Pappy's office. We were in Pappy's office as part of the tasting room.
Yep.
So lots of like visual history, lots of artifacts, nothing in production.
No.
So comparatively, it's a leap of faith to understand how things are happening. It was more of like, and this is where they left the cooperage. Like everything just looked abandoned.
It was a little Walking Dead.
That was cool. It was cool though.
Yeah.
Okay. So why are the buildings black?
Oh, it has something to do with the
fungus.
Ethanol fungus.
It's a fungus.
From the
resulting from the conversion of alcohol into something.
Yeah, and to this point, they believe it's harmless.
They believe.
Because they're giving tours.
Exactly.
Yeah, a couple thousand people coming through a day. It's harmless.
Again, this was a 60-minute tour.
Yeah.
We had a very knowledgeable tour guide.
She was very good. She was good.
Very much on a schedule.
It was Annie, right?
Yeah. So not a lot of,
how do you remember this shit?
She was polished.
She was.
I would say
she was
new.
Miss Kentucky 84.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, seriously, it was frigid.
It was freezing cold.
And we, including Annie, was underdressed.
Yes.
To be out in the elements.
Yeah.
So I wasn't interested in lingering. She wasn't interested in explaining. So we did kind of click through pretty quick. Now,
that's true.
The interesting kind of dynamic, just thinking about the places we stopped. So we went to that barreling room or whatever it was. Super old. I mean, it was like,
like
railroad tracks. It was totally in a barn and all this had signatures on the wall. And then we went to the production office or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And that felt like totally like
clinical
1950s, 60s
laboratory
environment.
It was a tasting room, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was
where they experimenting.
No. It was the actual lab where the scientists did the work.
Oh, I thought that was where they were doing the tasting with the scientists there.
Not the tasting room we sat in. You're talking about the experimental room or whatever they call it. Yes, you were correct. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't that feel like?
Oh, it's totally 1940s, early
issued.
50s. Yeah.
But I mean, it could be the evolution of the company, right?
Of course.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So, but it was the one tour we got the. I think to your point where you're going is you got the physical scale of what this would have been like.
Yeah.
Like it was the one time we left a building. To go to another building. Yeah. So many buildings, many rick houses. Different. We couldn't get into the boiler room to see like where the mash was going.
No,
right. We got
but that's how
out
Buffalo Trace was as well. The feel.
Exactly. That's
the
right.
feel,
That's
sure.
exactly what I was going to say.
Absolutely.
If you've been to Buffalo Trace, or even Woodford, it's that kind of feel without the actual production there to support it.
At one point, high volume, high production.
Absolutely.
Whereas you just couldn't get that from them.
Because they had the rail cars routed into the property to drop off coal and grain.
But super high volume. Certainly not a 2,400 barrel annual year place.
No.
I mean, super high volume.
No.
I remember halfway through the tour leaning over to Alton and saying, I wonder what percentage of all of this is bullet.
Yeah.
And I bet it's 80 plus.
Yeah. So we did, to the bullet, I did record some of this. We'll hear a little bit from Annie in a bit. But we got to, this was a tour that was, it's a brand that they don't own Weller. So Stitzel Weller's in the name. People
used to
are often disappointed when they come and realize there's no Weller here. That's at Buffalo Trace.
It's a Buffalo,
But they've have lots of brands move in and out. Old Fitzgerald is in the brick in the smokestack, and they don't make Old Fitzgerald. Right. So it's been a brand that has sold off a lot of its brands. Pappy was started there. It's now at Buffalo Trace.
Yep.
But they had Blade and Bow, which is a new brand that has an old history,
which they acquired. The existing inventory when they purchased. And that was part of extending the brand over, was taking that existing inventory and creating a new brand. And that's how Blade and Bow came out. So,
but the 22-year is what? What is
the 22-year? I think is 100% non-blended original bourbon that they have called Blade and Bow. Everything else is a blended version of the existing inventory. And so, even that 22-year and the existing inventory, once it's gone, Blade and Bow essentially is gone. Now, what the tour guide told us was they will still continue to blend existing barrels and continue the brand. But that existing inventory,
that profile
will be gone.
But
so that
was what she didn't know is how much of the 22-year they had left and how much they're actually making.
Right.
It's an unlimited amount of 22.
That's right.
Because as soon as someone realizes it's gone.
Well, remember, they use a different process. So their process is called the Solero process, where they take, and their blending is
Steel Trap.
They take,
but we talked about that in one of our previous episodes.
We did,
right? They take like a 4 to 6 year, and they blend it, and they let it sit for a year. Wow,
full of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So full of shit.
Check it out. Look it up.
Yeah, if you want us to believe you can't start laughing.
No, I remember talking about it on one of our podcasts.
We totally did.
Yeah,
it was not 3.
Not the episode though. So they blend. They do a blend, and they let that sit for like a year or something, and then they do another blend, and ultimately the 22-year.
Right.
In some, it could be
it goes
droplets.
Through like levels, right?
It could be droplets. It could be gallons.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like the idea of continuing to like have that taste, that flavor, that DNA kind of continue through it.
Yeah. I'm a Blade and Bow fan. I do like Blade and Bow.
It's a good bourbon.
Yeah. I mean,
it'll be interesting to see if there's any noticeable change, right?
Oh, sorry, Dave. It's episode 2.
Told you. Like I do. I'm telling you, I have no idea. I have no idea what I had for lunch 2 days ago. I can't possibly tell you when we did that, like out in Wood. But
strong start though.
It was a strong start.
Yeah, it sure was.
The interesting thing as marketers, the Garden and Gun Club.
Yeah, good call.
It is a good call for Stitzel Weller. I'm not so sure it was a good call for Garden and Gun.
Right.
Oh, right. Interesting.
Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I mean, and again, we can include this or not, but if I looked at the brands that are remaining within Stitzel Weller, it feels like you got a super high volume commercial brand in Bullet, right? Successful, but it's not anchored in tradition like you would expect something like a Garden and Gun to get aligned to. Blade and Bow, yes. But
still
again,
a relatively young brand. But
still a relatively young brand, and at some point, its authenticity is probably going to peter out.
It's still it's not produced there.
Maybe, but it's not produced there.
Yeah.
Everything there is Bullet stored.
Right.
That's it.
Did Blade and Bow have their own DSP? Because you mentioned this before. Their DSP was in the teens, but I think it was through acquisition of other brands.
But I think there's a lore behind Blade and Bow that's kind of fun.
I think that they're good at their lore, right? So Bullet's a relatively young brand, but it's made to feel like the frontier.
Yeah.
Settlers, Gold Rush.
To me, I think you and I are on the same page, Crowd. It's the whole idea that the Garden and Gun Club, that's a reason that if anybody wants to, if they're in the area and they want to see that, be a part of that, they won't go to that location for that. At some point, and this is harsh and we may need to edit out, Stitzel Weller will be kind of revealed for, there's not a whole lot of substance here.
Not there.
We could have got the same content from driving through the place.
Sure.
Right.
Old buildings, again, cool lore.
Yeah.
Tasting room was cool. It's nice.
Yeah, but at some point it's like, how far does that get you in this?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
I could see Garden and Gun aligning more with a Woodford or maybe even a Buffalo, just kind of, again, maybe it's a southern thing, but I think about the hunting and all that whole kind of lure.
I'd never heard of Garden and Gun until we moved down.
It's a fantastic magazine.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So maybe I was just disappointed
no idea
that there was no production there at Stitzel Weller.
Yeah.
I knew the brand confusion existed just from... again, when you looked at our tasting lineup, it was I.W. Harper, it was Bullet, and it was Blade and Bow.
Right.
Yep.
So it's like, well, that's, to your point, there's no Weller. And then you look at, Weller doesn't even, that brand's traded hands many times. So no Old Fits. So again, interesting dynamic, not to be skipped in the history, but as far as like learning, experiencing, I'd put it further down the list.
Well, I agree with Kurt in that if you want to see
Whoa, wait a second. That's worth this. Come on, man.
All right. If you want to, when you're in Louisville, I think the only opportunity you're going to get to experience high volume traditional distillery, it's Stitzel Weller.
But it wasn't. There was nothing in production.
No,
so you wanted to see the scale of it,
but visually,
visual.
If you
scale.
want to see what it was like back in the day
in Louisville, unless you go to Buffalo Trace.
But in Kurt, what you guys saw at Buffalo Trace, we saw the same thing at Woodford. It's just
Woodford.
You see the blackened, tan or blackened metal buildings from the fungus thing that won't kill you, according to Alton.
As long as you drink enough bourbon, you're fine.
That's right. But I do think from an experience perspective of, hey, this is what it looks like. There's big old trees. There's big old warehouses. Yeah. It's a cool place.
No, it is. It is. So
it was like hallowed ground a little bit of like the legacy. But
in all fairness, if it had been a 60-degree October day, we may have enjoyed it a little bit better. Just wandering around the grounds.
Perhaps. I don't know. Okay. I got my hat with the keys on. That's all I care about.
Right. Oh, yeah. So let's hear a little bit from Annie, and we'll come back and talk about tasting.
Okay.
Sweet.
And we can take out the Miss Kentucky of 1984.
I don't know. We can fact check.
I thought that was very complimentary.
It was.
It was my comment that was bad. I know.
All right, and break.
So again, welcome everyone to Stitzel Weller. My name is Annie. I will be showing you around today. This was actually the first distillery to be built here in the United States after Prohibition ended. And the Stitzel Weller Company came about. It was the merger of two family-owned businesses that had done business together prior to Prohibition. We had the Stitzel family. They immigrated here from Germany. They were distilling whiskey down on Whiskey Row in Louisville. And then we had the W.O. Weller Company, and they were distributors of that product. The W.O. Weller Company brought to the table in that merger a young executive who'd started working there when he was 18 years old. He went on to preside as president here at Stitzel Weller for 31 years. His name's Julian Van Winkle, also known as Pappy in the bourbon world. So they began construction here. It was December of 1933, and they called this area Shively. Took us a year and a half to build. We actually opened Derby Day, May 4th, 1935. When we opened, they called this place the Cathedral of Bourbon. And the reason being, at that time in history, we had the largest copper column still in the world. At that time in history, known by reputation as producing fine wheated bourbon. And it was unusual to use wheat as a secondary grain. At that time, most people used rye because rye was less expensive. Types of production, they fill a barrel here every 4 minutes, 7 seconds. And that is very fast, even by today's distillation standards. After those barrels were filled, they came over to this machine. And what this would do is it would stamp on the barrel head a couple different things. It would stamp usually a product code or lot code number identifying what's in the barrel, usually the name of the distillery, so in our case it would be Stitzel Weller. And also every barrel produced is going to have what's called a DSP number. So here in the state of Kentucky, ever since the Civil War, anyone who's distilling alcohol for any reason is assigned one of those DSP numbers. It stands for Distilled Spirit Plant. DSP number 1 for the state of Kentucky is the Bernheim Distillery. It's now owned by Heaven Hill. We here at Stitzel Weller are DSP 16, still a very low historic number. What we age here is Bullet. So in 2002, Bulleit Bourbon was Diageo's first bourbon acquisition. So what we age here in these rick houses is the Bulleit Orange label in the 10-year. That yellow building way out back, that's actually our bottling line. So those two products are blended and bottled here as well. About 3 years ago, we opened the Bulleit Distilling Company in Shelbyville, Kentucky. It's a stop on the Bourbon Trail. You can tour there. All of the distillation for Bulleit happens there. Prior to that facility opening, up until 2014, Bulleit was distilled on our behalf at Four Roses. And then between 2014 and opening that Shelbyville facility, as we walk past that building though, you're going to notice a plaque that sits to the left of the front door, and it used to be on the front gate here at Stitzel-Weller. It's a saying they attribute to Julian Van Winkle. It says, "We make fine bourbon at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always fine bourbon." I think that holds true when you're a family-owned business, but once you're a big company, they don't really like the loss part. If we could take the lid off of this cylinder container to the left of the tails box, we'd see that it's divided into thirds. You can actually tell there's 3 foot pedals on the bottom of it. When we do a distillate run, 3 kinds of alcohol come off the still. We simplify it, just call it the head, the hearts, the tails. The only part of that run we capture and put in the barrel for aging is the center part, the hearts. The other 2 parts we hold in these big containers and actually sell off. When I first started working here, the top part of the run they were selling off as an ingredient used in the production of nail polish remover, and now they're selling it off for the production of hand sanitizer. The bottom part of the run is more lethal, and it's an ingredient they use in the production of diesel fuel. So when you hear stories that people used to die drinking moonshine, that was a legitimate thing. The alcohol wouldn't always be cut in a way that prevented people from drinking something that was ultimately poisonous. Houses here at Stitzel-Weller are what are called metal-clad buildings. All of them are 7 stories high. Each floor has 32 rows. Each row has 28 barrels stacked 3 high. So the building we're standing in right now has over 18,000 barrels. Normally it's pretty aromatic in here. It's actually not so much today. When you can smell that sweet smell though, we call it the angel share, and it's really just the evaporation of alcohol from these barrels as they age. They say evaporation the first year is its highest, about 10%. Every year thereafter, 3 to 4%. So you can have a barrel that's 10 years old. It's going to be about 1/3 less full. 20 years old, 2/3 less full. 30 years old, it can be actually all evaporated. It's hard to tell today, but typically when we go on this first floor of the rick house, it's about 10 degrees cooler than it is outside. If we were on the top floor, it's 10 to 20 degrees warmer. So as a result of that changing temperature in the aging environment, barrels on the top are going to age faster than the ones on the bottom. So the visitor center here at Stitzel-Weller is the old corporate offices, actually. So the building was designed on the front really to look a little bit like Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. There's keys that hang on our front door, and that's really to pay homage to our history. So they say back in the day, Julian Van Winkle would open the property up and then hang those keys on the front door as a sign of Southern hospitality, wanting people to feel welcome. When they built out here, it was pretty rural, pretty far outside what they would consider the greater Louisville area. Built out here for 2 reasons. We already talked about the water, and that was one of them. But also, Shively, where we are now, was annexed from Louisville, so they were exempt from paying city taxes. But one time after Prohibition, there were 9 large distilleries up and operating in Shively. Shively is not that big. Got the nickname Lively Shively because of that. So, anyway. The logo is depicted using 5 keys, and those really represent what Julian Van Winkle used to call the 5 keys of making bourbon, which are grains, yeast, fermentation, distillation, and aging. All of these keys on the very bottom are numbered 1 through 5. If you collect all 5 keys, take a picture, send it to bladenbow.com, and engrave your name on one of these golden mint julep cups. So before we get started, though, we're going to do an exercise called the Kentucky Chew. Has anyone heard of that? You typically will hear about it as you travel the Bourbon Trail. I don't like that name, but it's an exercise that acclimates your palate to tasting bourbon neat. When we say neat, it's just as it is in these small Glencairn glasses, room temperature, no ice, no water. So I'm going to ask you to participate with me. When you pick up that first glass on your left. We only do this one time, so what you're going to want to do is just take a tiny sip out of this and wash that liquid around your palate. I swish it around in my mouth almost like mouthwash, and then give it a swallow, just one tiny sip. That'll warm you up and wake you up, right?
Yeah.
Definitely have a weakness. So on the flight, we're going to be going left to right. And what we're going to be trying today, we're going to start out with those 2 I.W. Harper bourbons. The first one is that low proof, no age statement bourbon. The second one is a straight 15-year-old aged product. So these couldn't be at any further ends of the age spectrum. The third pour on your boards is the Blade & Bow. Again, we do this here on property. It's an old 22-year-old bourbon, some of the last have ever been distilled here at Stitzel-Weller, fractionally mingled using what they call the Solera process with 4 younger bourbons. And then we're going to finish up the flight with 2 different Bulleit products. The first is that orange label. This is really their flagship. It's a blend of bourbons that are 5, 6, and 7 years old. It sits at 90 proof. And then we're going to finish the flight with a Bulleit single barrel, produced specifically for their single barrel program. Delicious sits at 104 proof, so it's a little bit higher proof. So
all right. So now we're in the tasting room, which was, I think, Pappy's old office. We walked through that. We saw the Hall of Chalices for those who collect all 5 keys. And the 5 keys, as part of Blade & Bow's logo, they're numbered on the bottle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You collect all 5. You send in a photo. You get a gift certificate, and then you can come to Stitzel-Weller and collect your gold chalice that's on the shelf of hundreds of chalices.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of uncollected chalices.
And the lore behind that, I think we covered in episode 2, which is pretty awesome. That it's the 5 keys to distilling great bourbon.
It's kind of cool.
Which we're not going to repeat. Listen to episode 2. That's why we did it.
But the keys the keys were a sign of hospitality.
Yes.
Yeah. And there were 5 keys supposedly to the grounds.
When Pappy unlocked the door,
hanging on the doorknob.
Keys, help yourself.
Yeah. Yada yada yada. Solera Distilling. Yada yada yada. Nothing's done here.
Stop.
Kurt's offended.
Stop.
Kurt's offended.
Oh, Kurt's offended.
Miss Kentucky 84.
Ooh, he just went limp too.
I just went limp.
I don't want to know how you know that.
Well, his microphone went,
dippy. All right, so our first one we tasted was an I.W. Harper. I've never had I.W. Harper.
Nope.
We had the I.W. Harper straight bourbon.
Which apparently is like huge in Japan.
Yeah.
So I think it was distributed over there exclusively for a long time, and it's just now become back available in the U.S. Is that right?
It's a mixed history. It's kind of weird. I've done some research on it. It's hard to trace what it is.
So talk about the other ignorance, because we're not snobs, we're enthusiasts, and we're learning.
We're ignorant
I didn't know what the
people.
hell NAS was. So we had an I.W. Harper NAS.
I don't know what that means
NAS?
right now.
Well, thank you. I had to look it up. It's a no age statement.
Oh.
So it could be 1 year.
Well, to be bourbon, it's got to be at least 2.
Well, okay, 2.
But they don't claim anything, which I guess gives them a large latitude of blending and bottling.
Yeah, okay.
But,
That's interesting.
Yeah, but if you look at it like on some sites, you'll see like IWS, NAS, and I saw other bourbons with that before, but I didn't know what it means. But there's no age statement.
Interesting.
Huh.
Okay.
Well,
So just for the record, Jay was a fan.
he was a fan
He has the 15.
specifically to the 15.
He has a bottle of 15.
Jay
had a bottle of 15.
Jay was there just to buy all the 15 they had.
Well, and apparently Marcy figured out a way, and now he's got plenty.
He's got.
Oh, did she really?
Really?
She ordered 6 bottles for him. So
Go,
yes.
Marcy. It's not a secret Christmas present.
No.
Okay.
I was sitting next to her when she told Jay about it. So
I got a picture
rocks.
tonight of 3 bottles.
Yeah.
that's So
That I.W. Harper 15 is not a cheap bottle.
no,
It was good.
One. Never mind times 6.
It's packed very well.
very fancy
and I think-
70s Decatur.
Yeah, and
Decanter.
Jay in particular, I think he likes it because it's super smooth.
Yes, it is.
And it is very smooth. My palate prefers, a rare breed at 100 plus and with a
180.
little bit more oomph
And $45.
and $45. But yes, I think, it's a kind of a sophisticated presented brand. Sophisticated. But,
Sophisticated.
yep. Are you taking a selfie?
No, I'm looking for the tasting sheet.
Sidebar, it was a blast.
Who's got
traveling
the
with Marcy
tasting
and
sheet?
Jay.
Oh, yeah.
Troopers.
It was awesome having Marcy and Jay.
Oh, absolutely. It was funny, Jay, you get a couple bourbons in him and he starts to come out in a fun way.
That was good. The 15 was good. I don't know if I'd rush out and grab a bottle myself, but I liked it.
Jay was right. It was super smooth.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I did like
Super
the 15.
smooth.
I don't know what the retail. What's the retail? I have no idea.
I think it was like 150 to 300.
Was it really? Okay.
What was the $900 bottle you guys were trying to convince me to buy?
I have no idea. Oh, it was a 22-year Blade & Bow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're a Blade & Bow fan.
Which they sell one a day. Or they make available one a day in the gift shop.
And they sell it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kurt, you could have been that guy.
Magic number 1. I was asking you guys to go in with me, but you wouldn't.
No, hell no. I wouldn't pay that much for a Blade & Bow.
No, same
All right,
thing.
so
Not unless
Stitzel-Weller.
that key is 10K.
So here's an interesting thing on the tour too. Now that I'm looking at like some of the photos from the Rick House, Diageo owns Stitzel-Weller.
Yep.
Right. So DSP KY 16, some early brands in there. They talk about the life of the barrel. Right. A couple places that have talked about the life of the barrel, but I believe their story was bourbon is one time new charred American white oak barrel.
Yeah. That's right.
That then gets broken down, sent over to Scotland, is reconnoitered and to
Scotch
for their Johnny Walker.
Yes, it was Johnny Walker Red.
Okay. Then after Johnny Walker, then it goes to Mexico.
Yep.
To a tequila. Juan. No, it wasn't.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a tequila, and they said tequila beats up on the barrel.
Yep.
Then it gets broken down and goes to Jamaica Man.
Yep.
For Captain Morgan spiced, and then if there's anything left of it, usually gets sold off to a vineyard or to a brewery.
Yeah.
And then they pour whatever is left into that. That wood is different. At that point,
big corporate holder, squeezing the margin out of the white oak in a big way.
That was pretty funny though. They did call out that tequila. So no wonder after a couple tequila shots, you wake up next day and your guts fighting. That must be the most abusive.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Juan Cortez, maybe. I can't remember.
No.
But anyway,
Juan Carlos. I don't know. But it's
Google truck is on it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. And I guess it's for shipping purposes. Yeah, they go through the hassle of breaking them down and reassembling them like 5 times.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you can't put something in it and just ship it in that.
Right. I don't know, but it was interesting to see
Jose Cuervo.
And the Diageo?
I don't think it was Jose.
No, that's okay. But it was another fact about the barrels that they said the cooperage is you can get 2 barrels out of one mature 60-plus-year-old oak tree because they only use the wood that is the first branch below. There are no knots in any of the staves, which limits you to...
How many barrels do you get out of one tree?
Just said that. Do you listen to the podcast?
I don't.
Okay. So
let's see if he gets it right, Kurt.
Let's try.
How many do you?
Don Julio, maybe?
Sure. 2 barrels. You see what? Yeah.
I'm trying to answer the last question that was asked.
I thought the Google truck was closed tonight.
All right. So what did you? So then we did the Blade. Back to the tasting room. We tasted Blade and Bow, which we've all had before. Right?
Yes.
Very consistent.
Good bourbon. Yeah.
Yes. Then we hit the Bullet Orange label, which is on every shelf. Labels are crooked because
they can't get them straight.
That was your thing.
Yeah,
that was your cue.
They couldn't get it straight, so they just decided to make it crooked.
Okay.
When they used to label them by hand, they were never straight. So they're like, let's just let the machine.
You need to expand on the story. I get it, but
that's okay. That's fine.
I'm just helping. I'm just here to help.
And then we had the Bullet single
Everybody's
barrel.
not as smart and informed as you, Kurt. I'm just trying to
know about that.
Single barrel small batch.
What's that?
What was the Bullet? It wasn't an age. It wasn't like a Bullet 10. It was a Bullet. Must have been a small batch. I can't imagine Bullet pulling out a single barrel. They're too big.
It was a green label, right?
No, the black one. It's like a black and silver.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me look at my...
I'm not a Bullet fan, so...
Yeah.
I like it. It's pretty consistent. Good for a mixer.
I tell you what,
Derek really likes the rye.
I tell you what I like, though. Annie, tour guide, she explained every one, and she toasted every one.
Mm-hmm.
So which I thought is it was a fun, kept us all engaged. Yep. Big table.
I would agree.
This was a bigger tasting.
It was a big group, yeah.
So she'd explain it, and then it was, hey, cheers to IW15.
Yep. That was actually. That was cool. I mean, think of the room. That was a good room on a cold, rainy day.
It was a beautiful
sitting
room.
It was very much like a little cottage,
very
like a hunting
intimate.
Cottage.
Yeah. It was nice.
Digging it.
Intimate.
Well, and she was like the perfect representation of like Kentucky too.
Yep.
So.
Yep. She was very, very hospitable.
Yep.
Very knowledgeable. Yep.
Excellent. Where do we go from there?
From there,
did anybody buy? No, nobody bought a bottle.
Nobody bought anything.
No.
Kurt got a hat, and I got a Tervis for another Blade and Bow fan that's in our office.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. There was a lot of apparel.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Not a great deep shelf of spirit.
Yep.
Did you say Tervis?
Tervis tumbler.
Mm-hmm. Okay, tumbler. I got that part.
The double
the big
wall
double insulated thing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was Tervis.
Yeah, Tervis tumbler. They invented the double wall. Man, Kurt.
All right.
Also pronounced thermos.
All right.
If you have a list.
Put it.
Where do we go next?
Right. No,
so Stitzel-Weller.
This droning on and on is kind of how the tour was.
I think it was. All right. To Stitzel-Weller.
To Stitzel-Weller.
Yeah.
Bourbon on.
You're still drinking the same thing you